Namaste. Welcome to the live session on the course about the course content related to organization development and change in 21st century. I have already received some of the queries, and you are welcome to put up your queries in the chat box. And as I see the chat box, I will look at the queries and respond to those. So as there is a first question about what is the flow of today's live session, actually the flow is going to be decided by your queries. So I have not structured in a specific way for this session. As the queries are posted, I'll be taking those up, and that will form the most of the content of this session. The first query I received is from Mr. Akhil, and his question is what is the scope of research in organization development? Organization development is the field about bringing the desired change in the organizational context, in the organizational setting, in a conscious way. So you can see the scope of the organization development is immense, because every organization wishes to grow, they wish to develop, they want to be known as better organizations than their counterparts, they wish to increase their productivity, etc., etc. So the number of the objectives or the things which are required for any organization range from the financial health to customer satisfaction to improving the processes and systems to learning and development. In all these fields, organization development plays an important role. So organization development research has an immense scope related to any of these subfields, whether it is productivity enhancement, financial performance, enhancing or developing culture, bringing about desired changes and desired development in the individual behavior or team behavior. There are a lot of research questions about human behavior in organizations, teamwork and group behavior in organizations, and how as a whole organization can look at the challenges and perform well. So depending on the organizational concerns, there are a lot of unanswered questions related to organization, which are related to organization development. We need to look at the real life issues, real life problem, and then we need to identify the unanswered questions, the questions which are not answered in the literature, and that can be the beginning or the starting point for our research. Research can also be about designing new interventions. In this course, we have discussed some interventions, large number of interventions rather, but that is not the exhaustive list. There can be many more interventions at individual, group, organization, culture, process, systems related. So depending on the real life issues, you can develop or at least propose new types of challenges, new type of interventions, and that can be a very good research in itself. So that is my response to the first question about the scope of the research in OD in organizations. Charu has asked the question, scope of real life project. I like to take part in real life project in OD. My suggestion is, Charu, get in touch with the LNOD people in any organization, or get in touch with some business leaders or senior managers who wish to bring about changes, positive changes at the individual, group, systems and process, HR related changes in their organization, and you can offer your support to that person or to that department. You can say that I have systematically trained in the field of OD. Depending on the challenges you are facing, I can do literature review, I can search for I can search for the real life case studies, I can show the correspondence of some of the case studies with your organizational challenges, and can propose some of the can propose some of the developmental interventions, and that can be a reasonable offer uh, from your side to get a real life project from R&D department or from the senior manager in any organization. The next question is by Dr. Meeta Mehta, who writes that what role leadership plays in OD, and can you give some examples which have been greatly discussed related leadership and OD. No OD intervention can be successful without support of leaders. So I can look at the examples where I have had opportunity of bringing OD interventions, and I can also suggest some of the examples where the great leaders, very well-known leaders, supported and nurtured certain specific types of OD interventions. If I look at my example, it was a manufacturing company. That was my first OD intervention, where engineers, mostly the 85% people, 85% of employees were engineers. Basically, they were the engineering consulting firms who used to consult very big projects related to oil exploration or the civil constructions, other civil constructions, or setting up some plants, etc. They realized that engineers are good at the technical skills, but they are not as effective as they should be in the attitude towards work, better planning their time, better managing relationships at work. So that was initiated, the OD intervention was initiated to meet these developmental needs, and this need was recognized by the very accomplished and otherwise very skilled engineers, mainly because their seniors pointed this out. So had leaders wouldn't have pointed out the need for the development in this field, engineers would not have turned for the program and for the intervention, but they accepted it because leaders pointed out, and the leaders also gave appropriate examples to suggest that what they were saying was actually not just their personal perception, but this is what general perception is, and they will be benefited by this kind of OD intervention. Then interventions in the software company, where I was asked to lead an OD intervention to bring leadership in terms of the strategic thinking and design thinking amongst the team leaders and the project leads. This was also well identified by the leaders, and leaders not only identified developmental needs, but they offered their services as mentors to the participants of the program, because participants were not only supposed to give the not only supposed to receive the instructions or attend the program, but also mentoring also was made as an integral part of the OD intervention. So there also the leader, this is another example where leader pointed out the need for development, and participants recognized that, and leaders not only pointed out but acted as the mentors in the development journey of the participants. Then there are many other examples where well-known leaders have identified certain specific types of the OD interventions. So during the course itself, I mentioned about Jack Welch and the confrontation meeting. They call it workout meetings in GE. That is that is taken up with the active support and active initiative of the leader of that time, Mr. Jack Welch. We also have example in India mm, for example, in the pyramidal group, leaders took active interest in using appreciative inquiry. And there is another example of ACG worldwide. Leaders took active interest in using appreciative inquiry as a OD intervention, and the whole organization went through that process. Dr. Meeta Mehta, OD is successful only mostly when leaders play active role, they take interest, and when they are involved, the possibility of the success of OD intervention goes to great heights. Mr. Atul has asked this question about, does OD is OD limited to organization or explored at individual level? How to design individual OD intervention? There are OD interventions aimed at individual level, team level, and organization level. So if you look at our course closely and follow the lectures, you will see the first set of OD interventions are related to individual level interventions. And you might remember we discussed Johari window. That is one of the examples of OD level intervention which is at the individual level. We also talked about the process interventions or sensitivity training. These are also individual level interventions, and we hope that with these individual level interventions we will see the positive impact at the organizational level, because individuals will develop their belief and attitude will change for better. As a result of that, their behavior with their colleagues, their approach towards work will become better, more functional, and in that process this individual level change and development will result into a positive change at the group level and at the organizational level. So there is a whole range of OD interventions which are aimed at individual level development. There is a question by Charu asking that please take session where whole training session of OD would sum up. Probably you are asking for a recap session. A recap session, yes, we can do that. Maybe in the next live session we can have a quick recap. I can present a slide or two which can to a large extent sum up the OD intervention, and but in nutshell you can see that OD intervention is a step-by-step process which starts with recognizing of the need, diagnosis, identifying the level of interventions, doing the intervention, seeing the result, and examining the impact. So and the interventions can be at the individual, group, organizational level. When we take about the human processes, interventions can also be at the HR level, process level, systems level, organization design related. So these are the axes on which the whole OD course revolves. Mr. Atul Bhatkas has asked an interesting question, that can the balanced scorecard be administered as tool for OD? Yes, I firmly believe that balance scorecard can be implemented as a tool for OD integration, because balance scorecard requires people to think in a holistic way about the job, about their job and the work of their department. So they need to look at the connection of their role with the organization and the role, their role with the team or department, and role of the department or team with their organization. So that understanding has to be there for identifying the appropriate indicators of performance of the 4 quadrants of the balanced scorecard. So that requires understanding at the organizational level eventually, and that is very much in the spirit of organization development field. So in this way, balanced scorecard has to be rather administered as a tool for OD and change. Secondly, balanced scorecard has learning and OD as one of the indicators. In fact, learning and development is an enabler for organizations to move from point A to the better point B in terms of their financial performance, process and systems, and customer service and the customer engagement. So OD is not only the balanced scorecard can not only be can be implemented as OD intervention. In fact, OD is integrated in the balanced scorecard, because balanced scorecard includes what? Customer satisfaction, financial performance, process and systems, and learning and development. So learning and development is very much part of the OD. So OD is part of the overall balanced scorecard work. Can OD be used as a tool for right sizing? Yes, OD can be used as a right sizing. You will be having a session where we will look at the change in the organization design, and within that we are also going to look at how it can be used in the right sizing related projects. We need to understand that attrition can be caused just based on reducing the head counts, and in this way reducing the cost. Attrition can be caused also by combining certain systems and processes, and in this way we can save some of the we can cut down some of the positions, and in turn we can ask people holding those positions to leave the organization. Right sizing can also be done by redesigning the systems and processes, wherein we try to include as many people as possible in a productive way, and also help those people who cannot be absorbed, can help people to find opportunities elsewhere. I would like to give one example about the right sizing and attrition. That this is a kind of a ideal example or a case study. This is given in the book written by Peter Pruzan and his associates, Leading with Wisdom. Leading with Wisdom has a lot of life stories and biographical notes about some of the very renowned and very reputed business leaders who are exemplars of leading with wisdom. One of the examples is of a leader named Colin. He was the head of a paper mill in Denmark. I think so. The Colin had this tough job of right sizing this organization, because organization was suffering from losses. They have exhausted all other means to cut the cost, increase the revenue, but somehow the financial health was not coming to the better state, and they recognize that until we ask people to leave, we cannot save the cost any further, and that looked like the inevitable step. What Colin did was very interesting. He decided, Oticon is the name of the company, and he decided that in the Oticon, no person over 50 years will be asked to leave. Everybody who has to leave will be given a airtime, will have a face-to-face meeting with the CEO himself. In that case, Colin is the CEO, and he would have got the one-to-one meeting opportunity with Colin to state and tell about his experience or her experience, and his or her take about this whole episode. And last but very important and very unique rule Colin followed. What was that? That was people who have the highest opportunity, greatest opportunity to find jobs outside of the organization will be asked to leave first. So the most competent people will be asked to leave first because they have highest opportunity. So, and apart from some of the very core functions, people who are very good in their job, or they are masters or experts in their field, will be asked to leave first. This is a very unique law, and they followed it, and they did it. They followed these rules, and the whole attrition and the right sizing exercise was conducted according to these 3 rules. Very soon, this organization could rebound, and the financial results were amazing. People who remained with the organization remained very positive about the whole process. Even people who had to leave the organization became the positive ambassadors for the organization, and within a couple of years, the company, which was finding it difficult to sustain financially, became very, very healthy financially, and as well as in terms of the process and systems. We will be looking at this aspect of right sizing in the lectures to come, but one thing I can share at this moment, that ensuring the it is in the right sizing process, in the attrition process, it is not only organization has to deal with the people who are asked to leave. Organizations have to deal with the people who are left with the organization, and what organization has to leave has to deal. Organization has to deal with the fear and the anxiety and stress of the people who left behind and the who are still with the organization, because that's the that's very important because concern, because those who are not asked to leave, they have this fear of being asked to leave anytime. So organization has to deal with that that uncertainty, and there are the ways we can address those, and that's all that we will be discussing in the right sizing related session, or session related to the change in the organization design. Someone is asking, please share the name of the book and authors. Please go to the home page of the course. You will see the textbook I am following is by Worley and Cummins, Organization Development and Change, and there are at least 15 other readings being mentioned, which are being used in the different sessions during this course. We also give full references of particular readings based on which a particular slide is based. So please follow the references, and you will get the names of the book, the textbook, as well as the reference books, as well as articles. MSME, Atulji is asking, MSME sector has potential, but due to non-professional approach, ownership issues, how to penetrate OD and organization development, how to facilitate increase the top line. Different organizations will require different OD interventions to make the top line look better and healthier. but there is a complete session on organization development and change in MSME sector. So towards the end of this course, I think 18th or 19th session, somewhere 18th, between 18th to 20th session, there is a full delivery on OD in the MSME sector. So you can wait till then, or lectures are already uploaded on the YouTube. You can just search the 8th week's lecture and you will be able to find the session on OD and organization development change in the MSME sector. So book on right sizing, I'll be so in the organization development lecture, I have mentioned the specific reference about the right sizing related content. Sitharamanji is asking, even though OD is a tool, in most of the corporates, the culture, systems and team develops by visionary leaders and vibrant teams. OD solutions to a company which is below threshold level. If I have understood your question correctly, you are saying that OD happens, organizations develop or teams develop through visionary leadership and vibrant teams. Yes, but visionary leadership and vibrant teams do something, and what they do can be termed as OD. There is no limitation of the OD intervention. Some of the interventions are more common, they are there in the textbooks, but leaders, facilitators, LNOD professionals, all of them can develop very innovative OD interventions, which may not be part of the any book, and that might be still very relevant for that particular organization. So whenever organization develops, we can say OD is happening. It might be happening consciously, it might not be happening consciously. There is one question asked by Nandan Kumarji. How frequently a growing organization shall adopt the developmental programs in order to cope with changes? Organizations have to constantly look for the weak signals, and they need to pick up the weak signals before they become strong signals. For any particular change process, which generally arise from the industry environment or general environment, we need to the smart organizations keep looking for the signals, and smart organizations are called smart because they can pick up the signals quickly and accordingly they can strategize. I must also share that great organizations do not look for environmental signals at all. These organizations imagine the possibilities. We have example of Tesla or WhatsApp and M-Pesa, the Vodafone. These are the organizations which, or even for that matter, Zoom. They developed the products, they developed certain systems, they identified the opportunity much before environment started asking for those things very strongly and vehemently. So organizations have to constantly look for, and for that they need to constantly engage in the conversations with and they have to constantly take input from the people who are working on the edges, means organization people who are working at the interface of two or more number of stakeholders. For example, field sales force. Now field sales force not only is familiar to your organization's systems and processes and products and services, uh, field sales force always having idea about the services and products offered by the competitors. Now competitors uh, uh, can change the strategy, and that will be first visible to the field sales force. We need to keep engaging the people like these, to keep giving the signals, to keep supplying the information about what is going on in the field. Similarly, people who are interacting with the regulators, people who are in the advertising field in your organization, they are constantly looking at the internal organizational processes as well as they are interacting with the environment. Now these are the people who can give interesting insights which will have strategic value. So that's how organizations have to keep on adopting for the better. There was one more question came earlier, that can consultant recommend, I think Dharmesh ji has asked this question, can a consultant recommend working on both gap, opportunity gaps as well as performance gap? Answer is yes. I would like to quote the great OD practitioner and great OD person. He is also a great academician. He is no more. Professor Ishwar Dayal. Professor Ishwar Dayal was the first director of IIM Lucknow, and he was a very dynamic professor in IIM Ahmedabad. He used to say that until confrontation has happened between the client and the consultant, OD has not happened. So that's where the answer is. Consultant is the one who can not only identify the performance gap but the opportunity gap as well, and good consultants, good OD consultants keep pointing out both the types of gaps. Sitaraman ji has asked for more Indian examples. I would like to point out that in this course we had deliberately combined the Indian examples with the examples coming from the Western countries or other countries. So you will see multiple examples of the Indian organizations in the social entrepreneurship related session. You also see some of the hypothetical examples where the name of the organization is changed. For example, BizSoft. We talked about a BizSoft case during the course. Now this is not the real name, but this is certainly a real company, and I have had opportunity of introducing OD interventions in that, but because of the confidentiality clause, we have to change the or disguise the name of the organization. So likewise there are other organizations as well where the names are changed. So these are mostly Indian organizations, and we also have the cases like Trichy police case or Mahindra and Mahindra and Novalis merger case, and many other examples in the appreciating inquiry related sessions where a lot of Indian examples are also included. Akhil ji has asked that what is the scope of research in OD? You can look at the individual level interventions and unanswered questions. There are immense scope, but you need to go to the field first and identify the research questions based on the challenges of the OD facilitators as well as business leaders. So what are the unanswered questions at the individual level intervention or team level intervention or organization level intervention? I am not telling a specific research question deliberately, otherwise you will not think further. But what I can say is that if you do the field work, you will certainly come across some interesting questions. My suggestion to anyone who is interested in research in OD is to for anyone who is interested in the OD research, my strong recommendation is that they must do the field work. What is the meaning of that? Meaning of that is they must associate themselves with some consultant, or if they themselves are the practitioner, talk to the business leaders, look at what are the most challenging problems of organization which they can handle as OD intervention, as OD expert, or uh, with whom they can interact as with who are the OD or the other OD experts who are interacting with the business leaders, who are working with the organizations. Talk to them, if possible assist them in the OD intervention. You will come across lots of unanswered questions. When you come across unanswered questions, you go to the literature in the field of OD. See, are these responded, are these questions answered? If they are answered, see whether those answers are relevant in your field, whether you see those answers relevant for the organizations from where you have identified these questions, and if you see those answers are working, then look for other questions. And if you see those answers are not working, the answers coming from the literature are not working in the field related to particular aspect of OD, then you have got an interesting site where you can develop your own answer and test those answers. That's the whole research processes. So that's how you need to engage in the OD research. You need to engage into OD research not as a pure researcher, but as OD consultant and OD practitioner as well. There is one question by Mr. Indrajit: how to improve the attitude of the teamwork. We discussed quite a few team-based OD interventions, wherein we look at the attitude related. For example, when we look at the sensitivity training, that points out the importance of certain attitude, and that brings out some dysfunctional attitudes, which is reflected in people's behavior in the team setting. That is one intervention. Outdoor activities, maybe it is trekking or some other outdoor activities. In those activities as well, we come to know about the attitude of the people, and we also come to know the limitations of those attitudes and ways, and these exercises provide the opportunity to reflect upon how to change the attitude as part of the OD intervention. Hot seat intervention is again a team based OD intervention, wherein we can aim at developing attitude. What is the hot seat OD intervention? Is a quick and very effective OD intervention, wherein a person sits facing the wall, and the team members generally sit behind this person, so that the back of the person is towards the other team members, and other team members can tell to this person what can make him even better team member, even better executive or a manager. This is best done with the help of a coach, and a coach can help to summarize these feedback by the team members. The person, likewise we can do with all the team members. Then team member can talk to the leader and look at the data which is coming from the other team members, can look at the data and help with the supervisor apply his or her own mind. Okay, what out of those 5, 6, 8 things being told about him as a developmental intervention. What are the few things I must try, I must change, I must improve upon to become a better executive or a better team member? That's a very quick example of OD intervention to change, to bring about change in the attitude. And there is a question about what type of test we have to prepare for the certification exam. The questions will be short answer questions and multiple choice questions. So, like the kind of questions you keep getting in the test after each session, most of the questions will be like those MCQs in the final exam as well. So, thank you very much. This, if there are no other questions, we can conclude our live session. If you have still questions, or if you come across some other question, there is a discussion board always available. You can pose your queries on the discussion board. Most likely your query will be sorted through email, and if we think that your query will have a larger appeal, it means it might be relevant and for the people at large who are attending this course, we can take those queries in the next interactive live session. So thanks very much for to be the sincere participant. I hope that you will retain this sincerity, go through all the sessions, take the tests with all sincerity, because that eventually build your knowledge base, which you can apply uh, in the real time OD intervention or your research. So wish you all very best. We will continue to interact with this assurance. I take your leave. Thank you. Namaste.